Hello there, Earth citizens. We are back with another episode of Unpopular Opinions, Existential Quandaries, Ontological Pontifications, you name it. Isn't it interesting that science cannot yet explain consciousness or the primal feelings? Well, it can kind of explain the primal feelings of survival, right? Survival is like, gotta find food, shelter, and procreate. So that kind of checks out. But it's interesting how much that's progressed into the rest of our lives as we've developed and evolved. What I'm getting at is different human emotions, such as, and human emotions that are quite ubiquitous, like just about everyone has them. Like jealousy. Jealousy is a very interesting one. Wanting what someone else has, feeling the feeling of something being unfair, of not having what you want, and maybe enviously wanting what someone else has. We know what jealousy is. Most of us have felt it more than once in life. And it could come from a lot of things. It could come from loneliness. It could come from, just feeling like things aren't fair and not getting what you want. Another way it comes is through a threat, I guess, to a relationship. When you feel like there might be someone your partner's into that they're interacting with, and you might feel a little insecure about it. Well, it's interesting because with jealousy, it's kind of the main thing that keeps us what's the word? It just slipped out of my mind. Monogamous. Yes, monogamous. That's the word. So that's the reason I think we're primarily monogamous. The other reason I think we're monogamous is because we only have so much time, so much attention span. It would be pretty complicated, and I'm sure it is for anyone that does the polyamorous thing, thruples, more than one partner. It seems pretty time consuming as far as keeping up with communication and being emotionally available. So it's just really interesting to me the intricacies of relationships and why they are the way they are. Why are they the way they are? I'm monogamous, but I'm more poly-curious. But I know it's one of those things, it would be like, the chances of something like that working and finding someone that it's actually, there's enough simpatico amongst more than two people seems like so rare. It would be like winning the lottery. It would be like, so it's not really something you want to look for. But it is interesting how we are just naturally that way, and people could explain it through evolution, I guess. There's jealousy, there's passion, and they're all kind of adjacent, but the same thing. And I'm just speaking my thoughts out loud. I feel like that's how you start conversations about it. So what am I really getting at here? I don't really know. I might redo this video. It is interesting how, even though, here's another thing. When I was in my early 20s, I didn't really that strongly have a desire to be in a relationship. I was totally content being single, working on my art, and spending time with friends, being in bands and stuff early on. But in my early 20s, I just didn't really feel that need. I did have a couple relationships, but it wasn't like super serious or anything. Well, actually, I take that back until my late 20s when I actually got married for a couple of years, and that went pretty well, all things considered. It's nice to be single again, and there's always the feeling of when you're single that, you know, anything's possible. You could win the lottery and run into that one person that you just have such a good synergy with, and you just coalesce with your intentions and what you're trying to do with very minimal interference as far as, like, I don't know, distortion of consciousness and confusion between people, which often happens, you know. But the interesting thing is, in my 30s, it's harder to be as content being alone as it was in my 20s, which is kind of frustrating. And it could be a genetic thing, or it could be a physiological thing, where my body is like telling me, like, it's the whole copulating thing. It wants me to reproduce, and so it makes me feel more lonely, feel more like no one wants to be desperate. No one wants to be, it's just poor taste, right? And so feeling those things feels like a travesty, because I'm like, no, that is not my vibe. I'm not trying to. I don't want to feel that. I mean, first of all, it doesn't feel good, but it's also just bad taste. It's poor taste to be like wanting or needy, and I don't like being wanting or needy. I've never liked that. In a good partnership, you know, you kind of depend on each other. It's not very aesthetically pleasing to be codependent, as they say, but it's just how it goes in relationships. You develop a codependency. And some people, their codependency is like too much. And if you don't have any kind of codependency, it's like, are you even in a partnership? I mean, that's arguable, right? That is arguable. What else? Yeah, so there's jealousy, there's passion, there's dynamics within relationships, and so many of my relationships have been different, but also the same in a lot of ways. And I would like to be able to explore, have more experiences with more people, but I feel kind of like quarantined or something, like some invisible force is blocking that. Like, I have people like try to reach out to me and connect with me, and it's like there's no like follow-up or reconnection. It's just like, oh, here's my number, blah blah blah, and then like nothing like that. It's actually never really worked out. Well, no, once it's worked out, but it was just like, yeah, we kind of became friends and stuff. But it's just weird that like 90% of the time, like, no one gets back. It's like, it makes me, sometimes I'm like, the trend is so predictable. I'm like, is this real? Like, what is this life I live? It's kind of like an inert simulation where things just have the same cyclical, like the same cycles, but it's not that interactive with me as a game. If this is a game, it's just not interactive and as engaging as I'd want it to be, even though I really do everything I can to engage. I try all kinds of different stuff. I do I even have kind of a routine of not being too much in a routine where I can do different things. I try to do new things every day. Like go somewhere I haven't gone. Be in a space I haven't been in. Try something new. And so I'm always trying to do that, but it's interesting how it's kind of like working with a machine, the universe. Even people, strangely, where so many people are just the same. I mean, everyone's different. Like, I'm not just being reductionist and saying everyone's the same and just complaining like that, but I'm just conveying what it seems like to me through my 36 years. And this is just my experience. People have completely different experiences. And I've had times in my life where it seems like everything's kind of working out and it's just kind of a different season. But oftentimes it's a little bit desolate feeling as far as the interactive quality of life and how inconsistent it is, even though I feel like I'm pretty consistent in that way. It's interesting because I used to be more of an introvert, and over the years I've developed into being more of an extrovert. So I'm actually better with interacting with my community and my friends and being involved in events and different workshops and projects. But yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes it really does feel like a video game and people are more like NPCs, non-player characters, and it's so predictable what people do. And I'll tell you, I wouldn't want to know the future because it just makes it so bland and dull when you know the future. And I'm not saying I know the future, but in a way I do, as far as how predictable it is. And a lot of people say the opposite. It's so unpredictable, and I'm like, that's pretty interesting, and yeah, it's pretty fascinating how some people have quite the opposite experience. And I would like to have more of a mix if I had a choice. And I don't necessarily need to segue from relationships to free will, because I seem to keep coming back to free will in this video, how it seems like, the options are limited. So we can choose, but I would like to use my imagination to choose more. I would like it to be more imaginative, for there to be more options. I'm not saying that I'm resistant to all challenges. I actually like challenges, but a certain kind of challenge, not like trial and error, just guessing your way through life kind of blindly. That's not, I'm so over that. I don't even want to play that game. Don't even want to play that game. I'm kind of at the point, I don't really so much take out frustration on people for frustrating things that other people do. It's more of a don't hate the player, hate the game. Has been a little bit where I'm at. And I just laugh at it because I don't know what else to do. It's very peculiar, strange, and it will be interesting to see how everything unfolds. But a lot of things are pretty slow going right now, and in a way I'm fine with that. I do like simplicity and not having my life overly clustered with too many things, which I've definitely had before. I've definitely overbooked myself with things, and throughout my 30s I've really been learning to have a balance as far as my personal time with my community, and with personal time creative time, as well as like reading books and hearing other people's artwork, seeing other people's artwork, and being in the ethos of imagination. I'm pretty fantastical myself, and I do embrace the uniqueness of creativity, and it's a bit of a pity to me that there's not really more options, and maybe they have yet to be discovered, but I guess I feel a sense of urgency. I mean, I'd like to have more adventures and more excitement while I'm in my 30s, instead of like, yeah, it's great if everything works out for me in a decade or something, but I'm like, what about me now? I want to live in the now. And I've heard it said, discipline is choosing between what you want now and what you really want. I've never really known what I really want, but I think I'm closer to it than I've ever been. And I'm working toward it, and I'm working toward it in the now. And it is hard to have discipline in this life when we can be so, kind of downtrodden by misfortune and grief or whatnot, that it is hard to maintain discipline and a balanced lifestyle. That's why so many people with mental health struggles end up with addictions, because they're trying to compensate for some missing piece in their puzzle for them to just feel at ease. Ease versus dis-ease. And so people are just doing the best they can. And there are those people that maybe there wasn't so much of a health struggle there. Maybe it was some kind of past trauma, or maybe, they just got into substances and then kind of got lost in that, and then that kind of became the thing that started dictating their life. I've definitely had some seasons of that, but as I've mellowed out over the last couple years, I've kind of realized the underlying thing is mental struggles that just never really went away, and it was easy for me to blame it on an addiction or the substances, and I'm like, oh, I just need to cut back on this or that, and more just embrace the high from life as far as the rewards we get in our relationships and our work, and it's like the satisfaction that comes from that. But yeah, there's just even on a base level, even default consciousness, it's just not really where I feel like I am. So it's really uncomfortable for me to just be in a state of just pure sobriety all the time. I need my coffee. I struggle to meditate because I'm a little ADD, so actually cannabis helps me with that, and it's usually an evening thing for me when I do that. And psychedelics also, they kind of clear my windshield from all the jadedness that seems to cloud my view often. It's just kind of takes a lot of courage to do that. It's a bit of mental calisthenics, as I've said before. But I push into my work. I do the best of to stay involved in my community and keep doing what I can do, which is artwork, and that, which I said. And relationships are a big, important part of that. I've been out of the relationship realm for a while now, and I guess I've just never been one to seek it out. How it's happened in the past is just kind of serendipitously just occurred, and if there's chemistry, things develop from there and flourish, and there's so many possibilities. And it's interesting all the different seasons we go through with different kinds of relationships and our disposition in them and how we interact. Being able to work on, whatever insecurities or shortcomings. And one thing that's really helped me is to be able to see my friends and my family for who they are, and just really appreciate them for their own individual uniqueness, and not for all the frustrating and annoying things we see in other people that really isn't so much them, but more something that, I don't know, either a trigger that's kind of rooted in something about ourselves that maybe we don't like, and when we see it in someone else, it's like, a little triggering sometimes. Well, it's crazy. This year is finally coming to an end here, and we'll see how things unfold. I really hope to get more interactiveness on this channel. I guess I'm kind of limited by the algorithm, and it's funny because when I think I have a really good video, what's interesting to me doesn't really seem to be interesting to a lot of other people. I'm just kind of on my island over here and trying not to be too salty about it, but it just kind of is what it is. We're all on our own islands in certain aspects, but I know there's other people that do talk about these kind of things and philosophize on life, and it's one thing we do as humans. If we more knew what was going on, we'd have more of a handle, and we wouldn't have such flare-ups with insecurities and all these kind of travesties that we do. Just travesties as far as things we do that are out of character. And we're evolving. And I'll see you in the next video.